Welcome to Cover Book Beat. I'm your host, Roger Nichols. And today, as Monty Python would say, time for something completely different. Our guest today, Al Olson, has presented us with a fascinating peek behind the scenes of the American Renaissance Festival tradition. He's uniquely qualified to write this book, having served in pretty much every capacity involved with production of those celebrations of the 16th century lives, from grunt worker to event creator, coordinator, organizer, and performer. Together with his partner, John Daring, he toured the country for more than a quarter century as Blog, the Singing Executioners. His book, History of the American Renaissance Festival, or Where Have All the Hippies Gone, is both well-researched and beautifully produced, with huge collection of four-color photos of events and all kinds of information that is just juicy for scholars. Our guest today is so nice to be with us. It's a real delight to welcome author Al Olson.
Thank you, Roger.
Yeah. Now, I want to, before we get into the meat of it, I want to thank you for putting a link where readers can watch a video of Blog dressed in their executioners' costumes, including the mask, cavorting to the lyrics of an English country garden of all songs, and performing the executioner's rap. It's flat out hilarious, and I was captivated by your performance.
Well, thank you. We certainly have enjoyed making people laugh over the years.
That's right. Well, this was a labor of love, obviously. The research is intensive. How long did it take you to put this together?
30 years, actually.
Yeah.
I started handing out self-addressed envelopes with questionnaires back in the early 90s.
Wow.
I handed out over 200. I only got 5 back because that's sort of the Renaissance Festival life. But then in the later 90s, I took my friend Mike Barrich around to start taking photos for the book.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm so glad you did that, because it really adds a lot of color and excitement, and you get more of the feel of it with the video or the picture as well. I know that was a team effort. You got a lot of people to write chapters in here, which I thought was excellent, to give you multiple voices. But that can be like herding cats at times. How was that?
Well, I tried to get a lot more of them, actually, because I felt that allowing people to tell their own story would add some credence to the whole project. But the ones that did, I thought did a remarkable job.
Yeah, I'm very, very pleased to get those different viewpoints. So I was thinking, could you describe the Renaissance fairs as the love child of the circus and the Society for Creative Anachronism?
Yes, and the thing is the timing came just when people were looking for an alternative to the regular society. So that's what allowed all these talented people to pool their efforts to make this happen.
You also, in the book, make a distinction between the Patterson Pleasure Fair concept, based primarily in California, and leading toward more historical recreation, and the George Coulomb organized American Renaissance Festival, mostly an entertainment business. And you got an interesting sentence here. You say, ultimately, anachronism is what separates them, and geographically, the Rocky Mountains do almost as well. Can you amplify on that for us?
Well, the pleasure fairs, for the most part, are west of the Rockies, up and down the western coast. There are a couple of shows. The Sterling Renaissance Festival in New York stays true to the pleasure fair concept, but otherwise, most of the shows east of the Rockies follow the Renaissance Festival concept.
Mm-hmm. I want to pick a slight bone with you, and this is only because of localism. You do mention in the early part about the Oregon Country Fair, which started like 1968, just west of Eugene, and is the only one I've ever been to. So I was hoping to get more about that in there, but I understand your focus because that's not where you worked.
Right, and I had intended to. There were a number of things that I wanted to get to before I published the book, but as it turned out, the woman that put things together for me was going into the hospital, and she said, if you want to make sure I do this, you better pull together what you've got right now. And
okay. I mean, obviously, if you have an encyclopedia, you did everything. So what you did is a great overview. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to include as much as I could.
Yeah. There was a whole bunch of cool little tidbits all sprinkled through this, and I'm going to bounce around a little bit, try to get some reaction of that. One of the things I was interested in is you talk about where I'm going to probably mispronounce the name, Art Kunken distributed copies of the Fair Press to the front gate, and it said this proved to be the first issue of the Los Angeles Free Press, uh, very famous national publication. So that's kind of cool that it spawns not just itself, but other things entering our society.
Yes, well, that again, the hippie Renaissance Festival connection was a strong one,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe that, well, in the book, as you may have read, there were a number of people that were doing the commune thing and whatever that gravitated into the Renaissance Festival, which was a very welcoming place.
Yeah. What was it like? I'm going to bounce around as a performer. I mean, you organize shows, you're involved with shows, but you, the two of you and your act, how long did it take you to get that perfected, and how much fun was it? It looks like it's hilariously fun.
Oh, it was a wonderful time. We started at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival. First off, we started with a folk group called Pumpkin, and that's how we were hired to work the festival. But that first year in '77, some of the people out there were Penn and Teller, Avner the Eccentric, the Flying Karamazov Brothers, Turk Pipkin, Puke and Snot, who were a local but very successful act.
Yeah.
And we were a little frustrated that we weren't standing out that much. And in that peak of frustration, we started batting ideas back and forth. And my partner, John, all of a sudden said, or we could be these two hulking executioners doing this English country garden lottie dance, Smee and Blogg, the singing executioners. And I said, wait a minute, that's it. And then George Herman, who was King Henry the Only at the show,
Mm-hmm.
who was a spectacular field general when it came to directing his shows. He'd have 3 stage shows a day. He invited us to join them immediately. And we basically started building bits, working together with him. And once we had a number of them, we decided to string them together as a show.
Obviously, I mean, in the brief video that I saw, the audience was just eating it up. So, and I have to say that their taste is excellent when it comes to acts.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Oh, sorry, their taste is excellent when it comes to acts that they're enjoying. So we appreciate that. There's a lot of, like I said, a lot of little tidbits. One of the things that you talk about is how certain bunch of these festivals, everybody wears a hat during festival hours. Tell me about that a little bit.
Well, that is George Coulam's rule, and he picked that up in California. That is one of the few things that he carried over from the pleasure fair concept to his Renaissance Festival design.
Yeah. And I'm sure your hoods counted as hats for him as far as yes. Okay. You talk about being the chance to get on the ground floor, spent years building up, was the Tennessee Renaissance Fair? Is that the one?
That's the one I started.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And you describe all the stuff you had to do, all of the things. I don't think people realize what goes into putting together one of these things, all of the logistics of it.
Oh yeah, it takes a lot, and nowadays even more. Now, because of the bandwidth of cell phones and such, now some of the shows are having to put in wired internet because with all the people out there using their phones, people aren't able to use charge cards and such.
Oh, okay.
And then dealing with, for instance, privies has come to a different level. Texas Renaissance Festival built their own waste disposal site so that they've got that covered there. But some places bring in trailers with toilets now, and others still go the old-fashioned way with the porta potties.
Okay. I mean, there's so many things. One of the very interesting things I read in the book was siting the festival, obviously you want a nice place, but there's some considerations among the ones that would come to mind as civilians, like not too close to a town. And there's a reason for that.
Oh, yes. Traffic is always a consideration. And basically, it's hard to find something cheap enough to pull it off with too close to a town, a big city. You got to get out into the country where you can afford 180 acres or whatever.
Yeah. And well, on the other side of that is you don't want to make them where it's only 5 minutes away where they can come and go as they please. You would like them to stay once they've made the trip and spend money and enjoy themselves.
That's the whole point. That's why you offer all of the entertainment to try to keep them there.
Yeah. I noticed that you talk a lot about the fact that originally they wouldn't allow the performers to market merchandise, and then that changed. And I think you said that Puke and Snot were like the masters of that.
Yes, yes, they were the ones that really got it going. When we weren't allowed to sell stuff, they just brought a bag full of T-shirts and did it anyway. And finally, just insisted on that in their contract. And once that happened, other people said, "Hey, wait a minute."
Yeah.
And
so, yeah, I was going to say one of the things that really amused me was the salt and pepper shakers that they sold Snot and Puke, as it were. And I'm sure the T-shirts, every teenage kid would want a T-shirt that said Snot and Puke on it, just because that's the way we are.
Oh yeah, no, their marketing is the best.
Yeah. How about Smee and Blog? What did you guys sell for merch?
Well, we started with T-shirts, and then the next thing we did was we came out with press-on tattoos.
Oh.
To offer. Most people would throw $1 for a tip at that point, and we'd offer them a press-on tattoo with a $2 tip. We did silver pins, and so far we're the only act to ever have done bobbleheads.
I can see those right now.
And if you go to smeeandblog.com, you can see the bobbleheads as an opener on one of the videos.
Okay. Wow. Now, is this merchandise still available for purchase?
Sad to say, the bobbleheads, there were only 25 made, and the woman that was making them kind of disappeared.
Oh, wow.
Totally lost track of that. And most of the other merchandise, we haven't been performing for about 14 years together now.
Okay.
And each of us performs individually, but the marketing has kind of dropped off.
Cool. So, do you perform as an individual singing executioner then?
Yes, I do. John is a superb guitarist. He performs as Blogio the Minstrel.
Jeez. That you guys had so much fun, obviously, and that seeps through the book. And I want to tell people, you will read this, you will find yourself at some points just smiling because there's so much fun involved here. And I also want to talk about the fact that the names, I mean, we mentioned a few of these names about Abner the Eccentric and Smee and Blog and Puke and Snot, the Rat Catcher, Zilch the Gravedigger, the New Riders of the Golden Age Jousters, I love that, the Sturdy Beggars Mud Show, the Benevolent Order of Scurrilous Monks. You were involved with that for a bit, is that correct?
Well, I am Brother Mother. And I was so named because of the fact that I traveled with my daughter until she was school age. But the order was basically founded to try to form a retirement home for Rennies.
Oh, interesting. Did that take place, or is it still in process?
It's still a process. We do have a bank account, and people keep sharing ideas. We haven't found the right property yet.
Wow, that is so cool. Do you think that there's an outlet for people in taking part in Ren fairs?
Oh, that's what they're there for. I mean, more and more people are coming out in costume, and certainly not necessarily Renaissance costume. I mean, you see Star Trek, you see pirates everywhere. furries. Lately, now all of a sudden there are all these mushroom people in mushroom hats, and but it's always been a safe place for people to just come out and enjoy. And so the fairs welcome that, the festivals welcome that.
Ah, excellent. So you've got kind of a Comic-Con feel to it from time to time as well, I suspect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. The thing that really impresses me is how many things go back to this King George. Uh, am I saying this right? Coulomb? Is that the right
Cool.
pronunciation? Coulomb. Yeah.
Yes.
Um, Tell me about him a little bit more.
Well, he was out in California getting his degree at North California, and he was working at a stained glass booth in the Southern Fair, and came back to Salt Lake City, where he was from, and told his friends and brother that he wanted to do one of these things. And so they decided to go ahead and give it a shot in Salt Lake City, which didn't work, but it he then was able to contact a fellow in Minnesota who was starting a Newtown uh, experiment with a Newtown vision thing, and was looking for an event to publicize the area. And so he started the Minnesota show, and it was just serendipity. People just flocked to it immediately. There are there's a lot of money that goes into the arts in Minneapolis. And so there were an awful lot of people who were doing theater. They were doing puppets. They were doing dance. And boom, once this started, they just decided, let's be a part of that. And George sold the show fairly early on to four other gentlemen who then split up the country and started shows all over the eastern U.S., eastern and central U.S. And George went down to Houston and basically started the Disneyland of Renaissance festivals.
What a guy! And you worked with him and with just about everybody else on the circuit over your career.
Oh yes, yes. I do mention in the book. I think that I actually won $900 from him in a poker game one time.
So what was the hand? You remember the hand?
Uh, I know I know that it was aces over full house, because it turns out this was in a little bar in Texas. They were playing with a wild card, and I had a pair of aces and something else and the wild card, and I won the hand. And a little bit later on, my partner had the joker and a pair of kings over something, and there was a huge pot over $2,000, and he threw it down, and they said no, the joker only counts in aces, straights, and flushes.
Oh dear. Well, at least you got the
Small
nine.
town.
Yeah, at least you got the $900, and that's great. That's back when it was real money too. That was a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of
No,
money.
I was pretty pleased.
What have you done any book tours for this other than a few like this online?
I've been to 6 festivals at this point,
Okay.
and I'll be going out this fall to Maryland, October 21st and 22nd, and I'll be in the Carolina show the following weekend, the 28th, 29th.
All right. Is there anything we haven't touched on in the book or your career that you would like to share with our listeners?
Well, the reason that I decided to do the book basically was the fact that back in the 80s, Renaissance festivals were kind of a sitcom joke for the most part. And at that point, I had been working them long enough to realize that there were a lot of really talented people who were working at these shows. And I felt that I had to correct this misconception. And that's kind of what led me to writing the book and collecting all the information.
Okay. Well, let's share with people. You've got do you have a website, a blog, anything we want to make sure they can contact you or get a hold of the book?
Well, for autographed copies of the book, you can go to singingexecutioners.com.
Of course. What else would it be?
Yes, yeah, we actually initially had smeandblog.com, and I had a credit card change and lost the site just like that.
Somebody
Someone
grabbed that. Yeah.
somebody grabbed it, offered it to sell it to me for 10,000, and I said, well, we've also got singingexecutioners.com, so
Yeah. All
I'll
right.
stick with that.
All right. Well, we hope that this will be first of many wonderful books you're going to be writing over the years. I think that there's more to be said, and if you got spare time, we'd love to see volume two.
Well, I'm already working on that, as a matter of fact. Working title is The Rennie Experience. It's going to be more story driven.
Mhm.
And believe me, there are myriad of interesting stories.
Right. And there were so many of them just in this, and I can see where this is like setting the framework up. Here's the history. Here's what happened. Here's what happened over here. Now let's have some fun and tell you the inside fun stuff as well. So I'm,
Exactly.
I'm really looking forward to that. We hope you will join us again for that when that comes out. We appreciate that.
All
Our,
right.
our guest today, Al Olson, and the book is The History of the American Renaissance Festival, or Where Have All the Hippies Gone? Thank you so much, and we'll see you later.
All right. Thank you, Roger. Have a great day.
Okay.